was going to switch microphone. Oh, it's on that microphone anyway. Okay, that's fun. Okay, guys. So yes, you got my screen here. So here we go. Here's my little rip-off. I did it. In fact, not even rip-off. I just copied the Google Drive. Google Drive logo. Now, I just want to go through these some techniques on how I did that, and then I will let you guys crack on. So, the golden rule of any presentation design idea is that you use a ruler. You don't just wing it. So the way I started with this was I just did really faintly with a pencil. I did some, well, that wasn't very faint. Some parallel diagonal lines. I'm just going to show you how I did the sort of recycling logo. The reason I did the Google Drive style logo is because I wanted to do like a, I thought it would make quite a nice metaphor of the recycling logo. So I'm going to start off with doing some diagonal lines. I'm making my grid here. Now you probably can't even see that, but it's, that's basically what I'm trying to do. And then I'm going to do the grid going the other way as well. So I'm going to just get my lines going down here. Now, sometimes what people do is they use maths paper as a grid. So if you've got some grid paper at home that you've got for maths or graph paper or whatever, that can be really good for doing this kind of design work. Or even if you've got, sometimes even lined paper can help as well, actually. Just depends on the type of logo that you're designing. Now I'm doing diagonals for this because it's a sort of diagonal angular style sketch. Now, there we go. So there's my grid in place there. Now what I'm going to do is just very faintly, I'm going to sketch out the proportions of where this logo is going to go. And I'm going to use the corners of these little diamonds that I've drawn here. And I want it to be symmetric. So it's going to go up like that. And then I'm going to go down this line here. And it's going to meet that corner there. There we go. And then I'm going to go down the other way. So it's basically horizontal. It's going to meet that corner there. And then we're going to have a straight line going across like that. And then each edge is going to have its sort of fold angle like that. So you can see that I've used the grid already to create quite a neat design. Now, that's just by doing some basic prep work. What I'll do next, now that I've got the design in place, I'll get a black pen, like a biro, for example, or an ink pen or something. And now what I'm going to do is, bear in mind, guys, this is for final presentation of your logo design. Now I'm going to go about drawing in what the final logo design will look like. Let's see if I can do this. See if I can do this correctly. I always mess this up. Surprisingly, doing an origami style logo like this is surprisingly tricky to get your head around the folds and how the folds are going to work. Yeah, I've made a bit of a mess of that one. This one's meant to go over the top there. Yeah, and there we go. Anyway, so I've done it roughly in pencil first, and then I'm inking it in afterwards. There we go. Then after that, I would use color. So I did mine with a black crayon. This is where you can actually design a color palette as well. So as I've taught you before with the rendering, I start off with doing a little border. Now, a lot of you guys are very familiar with this form of rendering I teach you, but I just start off with a very dark border around the edge of the boundary. It's sort of, it just marks the boundary of where I want to render. And I just do that fading out technique there. And I'm going to go back the other way like this. There we go. I'm going to go down from the top, then up from the bottom. And and you can use this to really show like how the folds work. In fact, man, I've made a mistake on this again. Goodness me. Yeah, I think that's kind of working. I think it's meant to be like an infinity knot or whatever. Then I'm going to make one of these edges green. Then in a moment, I'm going to show you how to do text. So it's going to fade out to the center. And then fade down from the top. Like that there. And yeah, that's looking all right, actually. I'm pretty pleased with that. Now, the thing that's tricky is I've got to show how the folds work. So I'm going to show you how I go about doing that in a minute. So it's going to fade in from the edge here and here, and then we'll do the other edges as well, the long ones. Origami style logos are actually they're quite widely used at the moment. It's a fairly sort of in thing, as it were. So what I'm going to do to emphasize the folds, I'm going to just emphasize the shadows underneath each one like that. I'm just going to put like a bit of a darker layer of tone just over where the fold goes over like that, and that just kind of makes it look a bit more 3D. So then the next stage is doing text. So if I was just going to have some simple lettering, I'd draw the height of the lettering there, and then if I was just doing initials, I'd just mark off the width of each letter to make sure that they're both the same. So if I was just going to do a simple like yeah, I could do like a simple RR as if to stand for reuse and recycle or something like that. If that was going to be my brand name, might do something like this, which could be quite fun to do. So I'm going to do a symmetrical pair of letters, and I can use the angles that I've got from the grid there as well. Sometimes it's quite nice with lettering to invert one of the letters, especially if you're doing like an initial like this. Yeah, I think you get the idea of this, and then you can do the same thing with adding tone and a bit of color or shade to it, or whatever. Yeah, so it could be like that, like RR, like reuse, recycle, or whatever, like something like that. So that's the kind of thing I would expect for a final design. And then when you annotate it to explain the design, it's really nice if we have some like drawn lines like this to annotate on. So you might explain, like, first of all, you might then write, say, color here. And then you'll draw like a nice line angle down to point to, say, the green section. You put a little blob at the end to label it, and then underneath you can write something like, I chose green because, and then you go into your rationale behind that. Okay, so that's really what we're working towards, is a final presentation sketch, because then after that, guys, the intention is to translate that into Affinity Designer. Then that will be put onto the printed material for this product in a tin.